Thought does not remain still. Mind gives form, but the moment a thought appears, it begins to move. It gathers tone, charge, breath, posture, voice, and consequence. It enters the body, reaches the environment, and repeats until it becomes pattern. That movement is vibration. For centuries, the law has been compressed into a familiar statement. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. But saying that everything vibrates only names the principle. It does not explain how vibration operates, what it carries, how it is transmitted, what receives it, or how repeated movement eventually becomes a condition of life. Vibration is not positivity, spiritual ranking, pleasant emotion, or a collection of frequency numbers. It is the motion quality through which thought becomes charge, charge becomes transmission, transmission becomes atmosphere, and repeated atmosphere becomes condition. Mentalism forms. Vibration carries. What carries long enough begins to repeat, and what repeats long enough begins to govern experience. A thought is not only content. The same words can comfort, wound, command, seduce, threaten, awaken, or weaken, depending on how they are carried. Meaning belongs to the words, but force belongs to the vibration. A person can say, "I am fine," while transmitting peace. Another can speak the same words while transmitting collapse. A person can speak softly and command an entire room. Another can shout and reveal that no command is present. Silence can bring order, or silence can fill an atmosphere with resentment. The difference is not merely what is being expressed, it is the quality of movement carrying the expression into reality. Rate matters, but mode matters more. Rate concerns speed, intensity, pulse, frequency, and oscillation. Mode concerns character, direction, coherence, distortion, and form. Two forces may move with equal intensity while producing entirely different effects because they do not move in the same mode. This is why the division between high and low vibration is often too crude. Grief can be coherent, a smile can be distorted, anger can be disciplined, calmness can be false, intensity can be ordered, and gentleness can conceal manipulation. The true distinction is coherence or distortion, stable or scattered, integrated or fragmented, directed or unconscious, clean or contaminated. The question is not whether a feeling is comfortable. The question is how the force is moving. Nothing in lived reality is truly inert. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is motion held in a particular state. A silent body continues breathing, the heart continues beating, nerves continue firing, muscles hold tension, thoughts rise and return, memory moves beneath awareness. Even silence possesses density when it is held by a living being. What appears solid is also organized movement. Form is stability, not lifelessness. A stone is stable, but stability does not mean the absence of activity. A room may be quiet while carrying tension. A person may appear calm while holding violent internal motion. Another may appear intense while carrying clean direction. The law is therefore not merely that everything moves. The quality of movement determines the force, expression, reception, and consequence of what moves. Every thought carries a motion state. Every emotion, voice, room, repeated behavior, and identity carries one as well. Identity itself is not merely what a person believes. It is the repeated pattern through which the person carries themselves. When the same thought is repeated with the same emotional charge, breath pattern, posture, language, and environmental reinforcement, it is no longer an isolated thought. It is becoming a vibrational condition. Vibration is broader than sound. Sound makes movement audible, but motion exists before sound, beneath sound, after sound, and without sound. A thought carries vibration before it becomes speech. Posture communicates before the mouth opens. A family carries a recognizable motion state before anyone explains its history. A workplace transmits pressure, permission, urgency, control, or stability before its policies are examined. A nation carries vibration through its repeated fears, songs, rituals, myths, expectations, conflicts, and punishments. Every living system carries a motion state, and the law of vibration governs how that state travels. Transmission means carrying across. Vibration does not remain sealed within the one producing it. It travels through sound, gesture, breath, posture, behavior, silence, attention, and repeated emotional atmosphere. Most people begin transmitting before they consciously decide what they want to communicate. The body speaks first. A tightened jaw transmits. A collapsed chest transmits. A shallow breath transmits. A steady spine transmits. A wandering gaze transmits. A rushed pace transmits. The spoken sentence only joins what the body has already begun. This is why words often fail when the vibration carrying them contradicts their meaning. Confidence spoken through fear does not land as confidence. Love spoken through possession does not land as love. Peace spoken through resentment does not create peace. Humility spoken as performance exposes the performance. The listener may not always explain what was received, but reception often occurs before interpretation. A conversation is therefore more than an exchange of information. Tone, timing, pressure, rhythm, silence, facial movement, breath, expectation, and emotional charge all enter the contact. A clean conversation can reorganize a person. A distorted conversation can scatter them. A repeated conversation can train them. A withheld conversation can condition them. Thought is where this process becomes personal. A thought is never only a sentence inside the mind. It arrives with memory, association, prediction, sensation, pressure, expectation, and emotional force. Before it becomes speech, it has already begun acting upon the body. People often imagine that they think privately and live publicly, but private repetition shapes public presence. It changes the breath, the eyes, the posture, the voice, and the speed of reaction. It alters what feels possible, threatening, familiar, insulting, or impossible. Two people may think, I need to change my life. In one person, the thought moves as panic. The body tightens, attention scatters. Every delay feels like failure. In another, the thought moves as command. Breath steadies, posture aligns, attention gathers around action. The content may be nearly identical, but the vibration is different. The outcomes begin separating before visible action has even begun. Thought becomes charge when emotion, memory, belief, fear, desire, repetition, or will gives it force. A charged thought recruits the body. This is why worry produces exhaustion. The body responds to anticipated danger by bracing for contact. Muscles tighten, sleep weakens, attention narrows, and the person begins inhabiting the motion state of a threat that may not yet exist. Charge itself is not the enemy. Without charge, thought lacks power. The question is whether that charge is coherent or scattered. A coherent charge gathers the body behind direction. A distorted charge divides the body against itself. Coherence is internal agreement under force. Thought, emotion, breath, posture, voice, and action begin to stop betraying one another. Sound makes this law visible because sound is pressure moving through a medium. It travels through compression and release, entering air, water, material, and the human body. It can shake surfaces, disturb the nervous system, organize particles, establish rhythm, and create form wherever the medium is capable of responding. Chladni figures demonstrate vibration, arranging particles into recognizable patterns. Standing waves reveal nodes, antinodes, pressure, and organized form. Musical instruments show that material, tension, chamber, resonance, and breath determine how motion becomes sound. The lesson is not that all vibration is sound. The lesson is that invisible movement can travel through a carrier and produce visible structure. Ancient traditions repeatedly recognized this force. Egyptian Heka treated utterance as active power. Logos traditions placed word, reason, and ordering speech near the foundation of reality. Genesis presents creation through divine utterance. Quranic command preserves the force of be as well entering immediate expression. Om and Om traditions preserve primordial sound as a formative current. Letters, names, chants, prayer, mantra, dika, liturgy, and disciplined recitation all rest upon the recurring recognition that structured sound acts upon the speaker, the listener, and the atmosphere holding them. These traditions are not identical, but their recurrence reveals a shared structural understanding. Sound, breath, word, tone, attention, and repetition organize experience. The human body is one of the primary instruments through which this law operates. Thought changes breath, emotion changes muscular tension, memory changes posture, fear enters the stomach, shame lowers the eyes, anger tightens the jaw, grief weighs upon the chest, confidence alters the spine. Discipline changes the way the body moves through resistance. The body does not merely contain vibration. It receives, stores, shapes, amplifies, and transmits it. Breath is one of the central carriers. A shallow breath cannot carry force in the same way as a stable one. Posture alters the chamber through which voice and presence emerge. Muscular tension can distort what the mind intends to express. The nervous system interprets the environment and prepares the instrument before conscious decision catches up. Repeated conditions train the body. Repeated urgency teaches it to remain braced. Repeated criticism teaches it to anticipate attack. Repeated humiliation teaches it to contract. Repeated discipline teaches it to remain present under pressure. Repeated stillness teaches it to hold force without immediately discharging it. The body receives. The body remembers. The body repeats. The body transmits. To change vibration, the instrument must also be tuned. The human voice is vibration made intentional. It is breath shaped into sound, sound shaped into language, language shaped by tone, and tone shaped by inner condition. The voice carries meaning, but it also carries force. It exposes hesitation, resentment, tenderness, grief, exhaustion, command, fear, discipline, and collapse. It can wound without cruel words and steady a room without becoming loud. Words explain, tone reveals, breath supports, posture directs. Repetition establishes authority or exposes its absence. A command is not created by volume. It is created when the force behind the words is gathered rather than scattered. A quiet voice can carry command because nothing within it is retreating. A loud voice can fail because intensity is being used to disguise fragmentation. But vibration cannot be understood only through projection. A person is not merely a broadcaster. A person is also a receiver, chamber, filter, and amplifier. Listening is not passive. Sound enters the body. Tone reaches the nervous system. Repeated language shapes expectation. Music changes breathing, movement, memory, and emotional state. Family atmosphere trains the child before the child possesses language precise enough to describe what is being learned. A person receives through the ear, the body, the wound, the desire, the imagination, the environment, the crowd, the workplace, the media, the music, and the repeated emotional weather of daily life. What is received repeatedly becomes familiar. What becomes familiar begins to feel normal. What feels normal is eventually repeated without examination. A life is therefore shaped not only by what a person sends, but by what they continually permit themselves to receive. Discernment is not the rejection of everything uncomfortable. A refined chamber does not close itself to every difficult sound or force. It receives, examines, transforms, and decides what will be allowed to stabilize. What a person transmits matters, but what they receive helps determine what they eventually become capable of transmitting. Emotion gives force to thought, speech, memory, silence, and action. It amplifies vibration, but intensity alone does not make the vibration coherent. Anger is not automatically low. Grief is not automatically weak. Joy is not automatically clean. Love is not automatically ordered. Clean anger establishes a boundary without becoming hatred. Distorted anger seeks domination. Clean grief honors what has been lost. Distorted grief becomes permanent identity. Clean joy expands life. Distorted joy avoids reality. Clean love nourishes. Distorted love possesses. Emotion is the amplifier. Whether it amplifies order or disorder depends upon the carrier. Silence also carries force. It can gather attention, deepen presence, hold grief, expose falsehood, create threat, or prepare speech. The silence after truth is spoken differs from the silence of avoidance. The silence of discipline differs from the silence of punishment. Chant uses repetition to stabilize motion. Prayer gathers thought, breath, emotion, and attention around direction. Command compresses intention into ordered expression. Each demonstrates that vibration can be deliberately shaped rather than discharged randomly. Silence gathers, chant stabilizes, prayer directs, command orders. A room then becomes the shared result of what has been carried inside it long enough. Every room possesses a tone formed through repeated speech, silence, conflict, work, music, grief, laughter, prayer, neglect, command, and expectation. Atmosphere is vibration made collective. A person often senses the condition of a room before anyone speaks. The body reads posture, pace, facial expression, silence, sound, arrangement, movement, and relational charge. Explanation arrives later, but reception has already begun. A beautiful room can carry disorder. A polite workplace can transmit threat. A family can speak constantly of love while repeating guilt, surveillance, and fear. A spiritual group can speak of peace while transmitting hierarchy and dependence. A room is trained by what is permitted to repeat within it. The people inside the room are then trained by the atmosphere they repeatedly receive. Every private vibration eventually enters a room. Every room trains a receiver. Every receiver eventually transmits again. Vibration becomes pattern through repetition. Movement repeated becomes rhythm. Rhythm creates expectation. Expectation becomes pattern. Pattern shapes identity and condition. A single thought may pass. A repeated thought develops a root. A repeated emotional reaction becomes easier to activate. A repeated posture becomes the body's resting position. A repeated tone becomes the voice of identity. A repeated environment becomes normal even when it is destructive. What repeats does not merely happen again, it gains structural authority. This is the point where vibration begins moving toward rhythm. Vibration carries the force. Rhythm establishes recurrence. Pattern becomes the organized result, and experience begins answering the pattern as though it were the natural order of life. Mentalism forms. Vibration carries, rhythm repeats, pattern governs, experience answers. Stagnation is therefore not the absence of movement. It is repeated movement without transformation. A stagnant life is active. The same thought moves. The same complaint moves. The same fear, posture, reaction, expectation, environment, and outcome continue circulating. Force is being spent, but the motion remains trapped inside a loop. This is why stagnation is exhausting. Energy moves constantly without producing a new condition. The person concludes that nothing changes while continuing to repeat the motion state through which the old condition is stabilized. Improvement begins when one part of the sequence is changed deliberately. A different thought alters the charge. A different breath alters the body. A different posture changes the carrier. A different tone changes the transmission. A different response interrupts the atmosphere. Repetition then begins training a new pattern. Change does not always arrive through dramatic intensity. It arrives through consistent motion carried differently. Stagnation repeats unconsciously. Improvement repeats deliberately. The law has been distorted because phrases such as "raise your vibration" are used without identifying what is moving, how it is being carried, what is being received, what repetition is being reinforced, or what condition is being created. High vibration becomes a costume. Low vibration becomes an insult. Difficult emotions are suppressed in the name of positivity, while false smiles and performative calm are treated as spiritual achievement. Frequency language is then used as though numbers alone can replace structure. But a number cannot explain whether a person is coherent, truthful, disciplined, fragmented, manipulative, or internally divided. It cannot replace attention to breath, posture, emotion, tone, repetition, reception, and action. The law is recovered by returning to the mechanism. What is moving? What charge does it carry? Through what instrument is it transmitted? What receives it? What is repeated? What atmosphere forms? What pattern becomes stable? What condition results? Vibration is the law of how a thing carries itself into reality. It is not only movement, it is motion quality. It is not only sound, it is transmission. It is not only feeling, it is charge. It is not only speaking, it is breath, posture, tone, silence, force, reception, and repetition. Thought begins the form, but vibration determines how that form enters life. It reveals whether the thought is carried through command or collapse, coherence or contradiction, discipline or unconscious repetition. Mentalism organizes the field. Vibration places that organization into motion, and once motion begins to repeat, rhythm takes hold. This book was written by D.S.E.A and is available now on Amazon. You can find the direct link below in the description.